Well, Jim, our next email was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com. This is from Daniel. Hello, Jim and Brian. I'm wondering if either of you know the first heel commentator in pro wrestling or when the concept originated. Besides Lawler, Ventura, and Heenan, I don't think it works well. People aren't interested in what happens next week when the commentator's explaining how much the babyface deserved to be beaten with a baseball bat by 12 guys. Triple H owes much of his success to Jim Ross, who sold the outrage and disgust over the actions of the cerebral assassin. So, Jim, heel commentators, who was the first, and what do you think of the concept overall? Something you have done.
Well, first of all, who was the first? Who was the first anything, really? And what do you count? Because it's a tradition in TV studio wrestling in many, if not all of the territories, going back a long time, that every so often you'd have a guy sit in on commentary on a match involving somebody that he was going to be facing. If it was a heel, then he was doing heel commentary. And they would work shit off of that. And Eddie Graham had guys do commentary a lot on Florida television, and that's what Watts did the same thing in Mid-South. As far as a regular weekly heel of opinionated broadcaster, people think that Jesse was the first, but Piper was technically doing it in Atlanta in, what was that, 81, well before, was it 81 or 82?
He was definitely doing it in 82. He may have started at the end of 81, I'm not sure. But he was definitely doing it in 82.
And while he was noted as a heel when he started, and he would take up for the heels, he didn't pour it on like he was an active wrestler, because they made him strictly an announcer. And then when he started getting into the fucking angles, that's when, he not only was more heelish, but then also when later on when he switched babyface. But can you think of anybody that was regular before that? Because most of the time in the territory days, you didn't want to put one of your talent roster on the announce desk every week for the entire show. People got tired of them, it burned them out, whatever. But you'd always have the manager sit in every once in a while, or another top guy. So I think maybe was Roddy the first time they used a heel point of view as the regular color guy every week.
I think so, because before that, there had only been really retired baby faces in those kind of roles, whether it was Antonio Rocca or, LA, they used to have Jules Strongbow doing the interviews backstage, but it was never really like a Lord Layton. It was never, I shouldn't say never. George Cannon was a heel, and then he became a commentator for his promotion, but that was his promotion. But typically it was a retired babyface who you'd see as a commentator, not necessarily an active babyface.
And so that answers the question of who was the first. And then when Jesse got over doing it, and it was at the same time that the business was an all-around hot period, then other people started taking it and running with it. And that's why at one point in time I did it, or Bobby Heenan did it, or Paul Lee did it, or Terry Funk did it, or
Michael Hayes.
On and on. Michael Hayes. So but before it was always thought that your announcers need to play it straight. And because they're the salesman of your product, you don't want them to be, just full of shit because they're your salesman. But in the early days, especially with Piper and Jesse early on and et cetera, and even me and Heenan, the heel guy would back up and try to be more of an announcer than a talent, and constantly putting themselves over whoever they're affiliated with, and take more of a broader look, like, okay, I'm going to be sympathetic to the heels, but I'm kind of going to be more of an announcer. Those are the ones that had better success at it, and the ones you got tired of quicker are the ones that just went out and did their same shit. Because as we mentioned, sometimes entertaining promo guys don't translate to entertaining commentators.